What's up guys, it's Sydney and welcome back to another episode of Haunted Locations. This week we're going to be talking about Jerome, Arizona. So this one actually is obviously pretty close to my heart since it is my home state and it's going to be the first one I'm doing on my home state. So we're going to be talking about Jerome and we're going to kind of go over like the whole town in itself. So it might be a little bit longer of an episode, so just buckle up. So Jerome is located on a mountainside above the Verde Valley. Basically between like Flagstaff and Prescott is where Jerome is located. The main focus of Jerome obviously is going to be the Grand Hotel, which was built on Cleopatra Hill. And land there was a mining land, and that's what it's obviously most famous for, is being a mining land. This town was considered to be the wickedest town in the West. This was a mining town, and it was based off of the copper that they had found there, but it was also filled with gambling, prostitution, greed, and murder. So a little bit of a back history for you guys. So the Native Americans first started mining there to find colored stones back in the 1870s. Then followed the Spanish, who actually was the one to discover the copper in 1876. This started the United Verde Mining Company in 1883. The small town was consistent of Mexicans, Croatians, Asians, Italians, and obviously Spanish and Irish as well. So the culture mix was obviously really great at this time, especially for this time period, and everyone seemed to get along. It was built up and it was a very flourishing place with trucks, autos, and steam engines. So this was pretty progressive for that time period. Landslides actually took out a good part of the mining location, and they did have to rebuild. Not only that, but a couple of big fires broke out and destroyed a big part of the town, so that had to be rebuilt as well. So over the years, the copper industry had its ups and downs, obviously with the Great Depression and the war. The inevitable happened and Jerome's mining actually ended up closing in 1953. Because of this, the population actually dropped to about 50 people, when surprisingly it was 15,000 people in the 1920s. So due to the decrease in the population, it was considered a ghost town and it was heavily vandalized. So they actually had to have guards watching the town just to make sure that no one vandalized the property. So the 60s and 70s brought the counterculture, which drew in a lot of artists, and the town became a landmark in 1976. The town actually soon became very popular again and is greatly loved by its residents. So I'm going to give you a little bit more history, but I'm going to go specifically into some places that are there. So the Jerome Grand Hotel was actually originally a hospital built for the miners back when it was still open. It was built in 1926 and opened in 1927. But not only were the miners allowed to go to this hospital, but the public was allowed, or it was open to the public as well. So the hospital was very overcrowded, which caused a lot of the miners to actually have to wait outside for treatment. And a lot of them would be like moaning in pain from their injuries due to the mining, and they all started to kind of moan in pain, so they actually nicknamed this in the town the Miners' Moan. And the hospital was one of the first places to actually get a working elevator or self-service elevator working. So the hospital was shut down in the 1950s, and then about 45 years later is when they reopened it as the Jerome Grand Hotel, and is obviously open to the public now, as many of you probably are aware. So that's a little bit of the back history into the Grand Hotel that is there, but I want to talk about the inn that is there now. And I think it's the Mile High Inn, but a few sources say different things, so I'm just going to go with that. The inn was actually built in 1898 and was once used as a brothel, which Jenny Botters, I don't know. Jenny, she was the madam of this brothel, and she was considered to be very highly respected and was actually one of the wealthiest women in northern Arizona. She had about 20 rooms in this brothel and about 120 prostitutes that worked there. So at the Grand Hotel, which used to be the hospital, there was actually 9,000 to 10,000 deaths in this hospital because they couldn't get to everybody and treat everybody in time for their injuries and their ailments. So it's like basically like a death a day or more for the entirety that it was open. So this is my favorite part of the episode, and that is going to be the ghosts and the ghost stories. So the first one's actually going to be about a place in the town. It's going to be about the community center. And in the community center, due to all the paranormal activity that took place here, the residents actually call it the spook hall. But the majority of the guests and residents that have been there say that they have seen a woman walking from the community center to the inn, and they see her all the time. Phelps Dodge Mine was obviously like the big mining place that they had there, and they had, like I said, loads of severe injuries from mining and everything, and a lot of death due to the working conditions that they were in. So the most famous miner, or ghost of a miner I should say, that is there is Charlie, and they call him Headless Charlie. He is said to reside there, and the reason why they call him Headless Charlie in the first place is because he was a miner, like I said, and he had an accident working underground, and he was beheaded. They did actually find his head, but they didn't find his body for some reason. So that was always the strangest part of Charlie to me, because how are you going to find the head but not the body? Like, obviously it's a bigger part of you. So I don't know. I don't get it. But they never found his body. So like I said, some say that he resides there because they have seen footprints and have heard the miners moan coming from this area, and they see the headless body walking around, and it's so creepy. But they say that he's actually still looking for his head, which is like the craziest thing. 3 would be the inn itself. So as I stated before, it was a brothel, and it was run by Jenny Baunters. It's like Baunters. I don't know. But she was said to be Belgium, and she was actually, like I said, she was the madam of this inn. But some reports that I saw said that she was very unattractive and actually had like a very annoying laugh. So it's kind of funny to me that she was like well respected and well known, and she was like the madam at this brothel and shit, and you know. But as I stated before, this was a brothel. So one of the ghosts that is most famous for being there as well is going to be Sammy Dean, and she was actually said to be one of the prostitutes that was inevitably murdered by one of her Johns. So Sammy Dean, originally Maria Juanita, sounds like a fake name. So like I said, she was a very well-known prostitute that worked at this inn, and she was actually strangled by one of her Johns. And the reason why her murder goes unsolved to this day is because, and this is just my opinion, that it hasn't been solved because of this reason. One of the suspects was actually the mayor's son. So there you go. Like I said, my opinion is that this is the reason why it hasn't been solved ever. But it is said that she still wanders the streets, alleys, and the community center actually, which brings me back to my first ghost stories part, is that the woman walked from the community center to the inn, and that is because she's still looking for her murderer and still trying to find justice till this day. So Jenny is obviously one of the more famous ones as well. And like I said, she was the madam of this inn. She had all these prostitutes. She was one of the wealthiest people in all of the Arizona territory at the time. So when she was murdered, it was big news, big headlines. And this is one of the articles that I found. So I'm going to put that on the screen. She was actually shot 4 times in 1905. And like I said before, like, this wasn't really the time frame for, like, you know, women to be successful and all that stuff, and to be rich and be self-sufficient. So this was big headline news, and actually everybody was curious about her murder. But Jenny has been known to rearrange furniture, move things in the kitchen as if she's like putting them back to their original places where she had them before. But I guess it's like free feng shui in a way, right? Kind of. So 5 would be the phantom cat. So some articles say that this was actually Jenny's cat, and then some just say it's a phantom cat in the Grand Hotel, which wouldn't make sense because she worked in the inn, so, or she owned the inn, so to me that doesn't really make sense. But anyway, there is a phantom cat, and it is said that to have been seen by many people who have gone there, visitors. The residents see the cat all the time, but it's been seen walking around the town. It's been known to like brush up against your leg when you're in the kitchen, and it has been seen in pictures that have been taken by guests that go to visit. And people actually have gotten so close to the cat that they've gone to pick the cat up, and obviously they couldn't pick it up because it disappeared before they could even reach their hand out. So now to the Grand Hotel stories. So the first one is going to be about Claude Harvey. So Claude Harvey was actually the repairman who worked on the self-service elevator in the Grand Hotel. And in 1935, he was actually killed by the elevator crushing him. But the weirdest thing is that he didn't have like any like broken bones or anything like that in his back. All he had was like damage to his face and to his neck. So it was really odd the way that he was killed. But people have said to have heard the elevator when it was vacant. They heard the elevator going up and down. They saw lights, but only coming from the elevator shaft, which was also very weird because there was no electricity hooked up to this building at the time. So explain that. So when the Grand Hotel was actually a hospital, Gerthy May, who was unfortunately only 24 years old, was committed to the hospital because it did serve as a like mental institution. They did commit her to the hospital for being schizophrenic, and the 4th night she was there, she actually jumped 30 feet to her death. And that's said to be in room 37B. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but if it is, then let's fucking stay there. And then there was Michael. Michael's room is what it's titled. Michael's room is known to be a very eerie one as well. Michael was a maintenance man who was severely depressed, and he had nowhere to go. So he ended up taking his own life and shot himself in the head. So not only with those examples, but among these, within 6 weeks of each other, there was 2 suicides and a murder. And to what I read, the 2 suicides took place in room 32. So, I don't know. Scary though. And after the hotel was actually reopened, a guest in 1997 reported seeing the bathroom door in his hotel room open by itself. And he was actually so terrified from this. I guess he got like a really terrifying feeling from this. But he was so scared that he slept in the lobby the whole night, and then the next day packed up and left. The staff and residents often say that doors open and close by themselves all the time. They see lights turning on and off by themselves all the time. And they also hear footsteps in like empty hallways, and obviously ghost cries. And the most famous is the miner's moan. And I actually really love Jerome and its history. I love learning about it, and it's actually one that is very, very close to me that I could go to and visit. So when I do end up doing my part 2, probably gonna make that my first one, obviously, because it's right there. So, but the history from the mining to the over 10,000 deaths to the gambling to the prostitution, murder, suicides, like this whole town is just doomed to be haunted forever. It's going to be a ghost town forever. Unless they tear it down, this place is going to just continue to be a paranormal magnet. But I really loved researching this one, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification button so you can see when I put out new videos, because it will notify you. If you didn't get to see my first 3 haunted locations episodes, feel free to hit the description box down below. I'm going to link those down there for you guys. And if you want to follow me, you can. It's at Sydney's Poisonous on Instagram. My jewelry shop is at Perfect Poison Shop, and the YouTube channel is at Sydney's Poisonous YouTube. I will see you guys next week for my next haunted locations episode. Peace.